Good
Marty.
afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, John Donovan. How are you?
I'm doing well, Marty. How are you doing?
Best day of my life so far. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Good Friday, my friends, and the Easter season gets me pretty reflective. As a Christian, I find it quite a compelling story, and so I'm in a reflective mood today. But I wanted to run something by you.
Okay.
I had lunch today with three friends that have been part of my church community for many years. A couple of them I haven't seen for a while. And I was answering the old question, what have you been up to lately?
Oh,
And so I'm explaining accountability practice to them. And I thought it might be fun to have a conversation. Maybe you could lead this off about introducing this idea to someone who's completely unaware of what's been going on. So like for the beginner, like what the heck are we doing here? So we have this thing we call accountability practice, and you've been involved in it for over 25 years. I've been involved in it for 12 years. And so we have a pretty deep working appreciation of what we're up to here. And it's our intention and desire to make this available to as many people in the shortest amount of time as possible. So I thought it might be fun, just something I can send my friends that I met today, send this podcast to them, and a conversation about starting from scratch on accountability. What do you think?
well, that's therein lies my dilemma. It's like, okay, so what? As you were talking, I was wanting to ask you, how did they receive it?
Well, the irony is that both of these friends are a married couple, had already done some work with some inner child work.
Oh, okay.
Independently of this practice, independently of adult children of alcoholics. One of them has been through AA, and so had an experience. And we got quite deep into childhood stuff that these two folks had experienced, and the third person who was at the table. So we got into it pretty quickly.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I find too. Somebody that's already started some type of recovery, whether it's therapy, they know that there's something they don't know or could know. And intentional living, the 5 Zoom groups that we have going during the week are populated by a lot of people who have done the 12-step group, adult children of alcoholics. So they've been introduced to the concept that their behaviors, their traits that somebody gets from being raised in an alcoholic, dysfunctional home, where the rules of the dysfunctional home was alcoholic, workaholic. It could be a highly standardized or strict military home. Or don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And they know there's something they're missing. And when I start talking about my experience of accountability and what that gave me, or my aha moment, they can see something in that they see as either curious or exciting, or, oh, that's what I've been looking for. People, and I work in at West Coast Recovery here in San Diego, and some of the people that come in out of their lives that have been disrupted either through alcohol, some type of pharmaceutical addiction, and they're falling apart, and they want to know how to get back to where they were. So there's an interest in finding out something. People I socialize with, I don't normally talk about that specifically unless they ask me a question. And I pay real close attention to what you might call their affect or how they're receiving the information. And if it's something they really didn't understand they were getting into, I simply go, I shift, or I do talk about something else. The mechanism we talk about in intentional living, it's a reticular activating system. It's a net-like group of cells in the brainstem and midbrain, brainstem and midbrain, that filter out non-essential information based on what our focus is. This is a human condition. It's not that the people with problems have this brainstem midbrain filtering system. Every human being has this, and it's designed so that we can complete a task necessary to us: food, shelter, clothing, so that we're not distracted by all these thoughts and memories, and so we can complete a task. Now, that task for somebody in a dysfunctional home has become a subconscious focus about how relationships work. This is what you do in a relationship. As a child, I learned that I don't have an opinion, or if I have an opinion, it sounds a lot like the opinion I was hearing, because I was either chastised, ridiculed, humiliated for an infraction of whatever the family dysfunctional rules were. And here's right now, I'm in a point where there's so many contributing factors to this condition: alcoholism, drug addiction, obsessive thinking, people pleasing, controlling. There's so many factors now that contribute to this condition, that it takes somebody who is willing to sit for a while and be confused to hear this, because there's a payoff for them. The payoff for an adult child is, mine was having peace of mind, where I wasn't critical. So that was my goal. So I kept coming back, even though I had judgment about the people in the group and how come they're talking about this instead of what I think is important. And I stayed. And over a period of time, this reticular activating system that's hooked in the brainstem and midbrain, and also into the survival mechanism, began to pick up new bits of information. And I slowly changed my point of reference, my frame of this is what life is. This is how you live in life. And my frame got me to where I was divorced, isolated, alone, and buying beer or alcohol when I didn't really want to buy beer or alcohol. It just became a habit, a pattern of behavior. So, okay, here's the short answer. I introduced this with caution and concern and discernment about the other person, or where I'm at, who I'm dialoguing with. They don't need my help. And if they're not asking for my help, me offering help to somebody not asking for help is called codependency, or control, or manipulation, all those things I don't want to be. So I don't know. And it's like, I have so many places this can be pertinent. And as I'm talking to you, I know that you have an understanding. Your frame of reference has grown since the first time I met you. My frame of reference has grown since the first time I met you. And that's my goal is to increase this knowledge base or awareness base, or what am I not seeing? So I don't know. You might have another question or two about what you just heard me say.
What I did, the approach I took, was to talk about the shadow. So I said, go ahead.
Talk about what?
Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I'm involved in this practice that my mentor, John Donovan, taught me. And basically it's a process, a practice by which I get to go into discover what's the shadow in my psyche.
Yeah.
What is it that's going on inside of me that I cannot see, but nonetheless seems to be compelling me to do things against my will?
Yeah.
And so that's how I started it out.
Yeah.
And because these people were all in the unity movement, which I'm part of, which is a version of Christianity, they had been, we had all been exposed to the fundamental ideas in that practice, which is that we create our world with our thoughts.
Yeah.
And that if the world that we have is unhappy, unpleasant, painful, poor, lonely, then it isn't the world that created that, it's our thoughts that created that. And that if we want to be prosperous, happy, healthy, connected, then we change our thoughts.
Right.
And the general, and this is coherent with Napoleon Hill and Norman Vincent Peale and the video The Secret. This is something that's been around for a long time. You want to change your world, you change your thoughts. But as I've discussed with you, we've probably discussed this on this podcast, and I shared it with my friends today. I said, the problem that I experienced in that I would affirm things that I wanted. So the idea is, if I'm like in those days on the brink of bankruptcy, then the way out of bankruptcy is to stop being bankrupt inside and to affirm that I'm prosperous. I have everything I need. Life is full of abundance. There's the infinite resources of the world are available to me right now. So I would do that, and I would still end up in debt.
Yeah.
And so I was explaining to them, as I have with folks on this podcast, that it was through this practice, through your facilitation, to help me consider the possibility that I was in debt because I wanted to be. In spite of what my conscious mind was saying, my subconscious mind was saying something else. And that's what I did not get until I did this work. I did not get the power of the subconscious mind.
Right.
And oftentimes, we've talked about this many times in this podcast, and it's how you start your Saturday morning meeting with your 3 questions of, have you ever found yourself in the middle of an argument and realized you were wrong and continued to argue anyway, and so forth. It's that I have these compulsions that compel me to behave in ways that my conscious mind is going, I don't want to do this, and yet I do. And that's what I'm talking about, the shadow, the subconscious mind. I had no access to it until I learned accountability. Right. And so I was explaining this to my friends, and they got it. And they talked about different therapeutic processes that they've been in, inner child work, and working with therapists who had some insight into the same perspective that we use. And we just had a very fun and rollicking conversation once the topic was put on the table. Yeah.
And they had been exposed to some type of spiritual recovery, I need help thought.
Right.
There's something, I don't know, I need help, which opens up this reticular activating system. It's like having blinders, and the frame of reference before I realize I need help is right here. And when I acknowledge that I need help, this widens so more different information can come through. And usually in the 12-step, that's when somebody hits their bottom, when there's no, you can't go down any further. It's
Right.
like, oh my God, I need something. I'm broken, or I'm destitute, or, and that thought, I need help. And then they seek, whatever resources in the community there are for people in their situation, and or some recovery resource that they can get to. And usually 12-step is the first ones people go to because it's virtually free. They ask you to give a donation, you don't have to. And it's when I first started, it was $1. I don't know what people are giving now, maybe $2 or $3. And that simply supports the room that they meet in, and contributions to the bigger organizations above them.
And the coffee fund.
And the coffee fund, yeah, and the literature, yeah. So.
One of the things that we also discussed, and I think you and I have discussed this as well, is I think also there's a universal human element to our condition, which is that we all want to know the truth of ourselves. That we come into the world with a longing for self-authenticity. It's latent. Obviously, an infant cannot know itself. You have to become an adult more or less before you actually have enough development to be able to undertake the work of self-knowledge, self-authenticity. So I find also when I talk to people about this work, there's almost invariably an access point somewhere, because I'm looking, as you were saying earlier, I'm looking for the avenue to have that awareness in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that even the most hardened criminal still wants to have self-authenticity, wants to know the truth, I have faith that there's a way to introduce that conversation, assuming the person wants the conversation, as you said.
Yeah.
And I may not know it in the moment, but I can just have an intention to discover that there might be that one question that is the one that the person's been waiting to be asked.
Yeah.
And just go with it until it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a comment that I make that piques somebody's curiosity.
Right.
I never know what it's going to be or when.
No.
And I'm tuned in to the now point when it happens, and then I, with caution and
So one thing that I'd like you to, we talk about this a lot, and I want to talk about it again, if you're willing, is, and I was sharing this with my friends again, is the central role of feeling in the process of going into the subconscious, getting into the subconscious. I shared my experience with them, and they seem to get it, but it's so important to our work that it's always worth reviewing again.
Yeah. When I say feelings, I have my experience throughout my extensive recovery process to understand that that is a vibration in my body. There's a sense in my body. There's a gut sense, a tweak in my gut, or an urge, or a movement, or an expansion in my. To me, when I say feeling, that's my picture. Now, when I say feeling to somebody else, they have already got their picture of the definition of this word, what it means. And based on what they feed back to me, I can discern what their concept, what their picture is. It's an assumption, And then I talk about, enter into whatever dialogue's pertinent to the conversation. When I say feelings, I would like to say always, but I don't always. I will touch my body, feelings in my body, and I will say feelings are physical sensations, and still their concept of physical sensations is their picture, and it doesn't match mine. So I stay tuned, in tune in the conversation, and then adjust and offer, repeat, or inquire, ask them a question. And my goal is that our pictures come close to matching. They will never match. My concept, my picture of feeling is uniquely mine. When you get to the concept that it's information that's creating a alarm in your body, feeling sensation like goosebumps. Everybody can kind of, goosebumps is an indication of cold. Okay, so that's a feeling. It gives me information about my the ambient temperature. I get that through feeling. If I didn't have the capacity to feel, I could walk into a freezer and freeze to death because I don't know I'm cold. Okay, that's a remedial example. And when I'm in a relationship with somebody I love, and I'm not accessing that tonal quality in me, I'm trying to rationally communicate. And I would like to say in any relationship, communication is not rational. 1 and 1 is 2 is rational. How to build a building is rational. Logic, if we're like having a discourse on logic, there's steps to logic. When I'm sitting with you, there is no logic to what's happening. There's this me speaking, you listening and hearing, body sensation, and then you feeding that back to me, and we don't know where this is going to go. We don't know. It's going to be non-linear and dynamic. And see, that's where I want to live my life, is in this dynamic, organic flow that you never know where you're going to go. Where I wanted to go was happy. Make me happy. Anything other than that is not okay. So if you did something that irritated me, it was you who needed to change. Logical, just it's logical. If you didn't do that behavior, I wouldn't be screaming and yelling. Okay, so you don't do that behavior, I'm not going to scream and yell. Okay, that doesn't work. So you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't want to sneeze on online, but okay. So you touch base on the access to feelings, to being aware of sensation in my body. Yeah. Why is it so essential or central to the accountability process?
That's an excellent question. Let's first state that feeling is essential to my knowing I'm alive. I'm a human being, planet Earth, carbon-based life form, biochemical electromagnetic being, motivated and operated through emotional impulse. You can call that biochemical, or you can call that electromagnetic. That's a movement. That's a force.
I like calling them both.
Okay, they're both. Yeah. They're chemical, and there's effects. They're all happening all at the same time. So for me to maintain a sense of safety, when I'm in tune with my body, it gives me the information, not only physical safety, emotional safety, capacity to connect with somebody I want to connect to, or disconnect from somebody I want to disconnect from, even though it may not make sense in the moment, make rational, logical sense. So all the memories, all the traumas are stored in our memory. We call it experience. It's an emotional tag. It's a vibration. We name it trauma, ridicule, abuse, being ostracized. We name it, but it's actually a frequency. So when anything in my environment reminds this, that is similar to this, I go into fight, flight, freeze, please mode for my survival. Because in my childhood, me holding in my feelings was essential to my well-being. Because if I expressed, I would either get spanked, hurt, ostracized, or ridiculed. So I learned that the enemy was my feeling body. So whenever I was in a feeling of aliveness, of adventure, of curiosity, of exuberance, of practicing my voice, listening to myself scream, somebody was irritated, agitated, was annoyed, and shut it down. So I learned to shut it down. The irony, tragedy of family of origin dysfunction and childhood trauma is that the thing we become abhorrent to is our feeling of aliveness and expression. And the question was, why is it important to the accountability process? The only thing that will reframe this trauma in the form of a frequency is another frequency equal to or greater than this that has more value. It's equal to or greater. And that equal to or greater feeling in the accountability process is when I get to the truth of the result of the trauma, which for me was addict, violent man, abusive. So when I got to owning these traits, I'm a violent man, that awareness has a frequency to it. And it brings up the trauma so that I can feel it. And then when I say it is my intent to be nonviolent, or is my intent to be kind, it fuses with that frequency, shifts it a little bit, and then sets it back down into our subconscious. I, as a 34-year sober person, 25 years practitioner of accountability, still have 7/8, 9/10 of my experience in my subconscious, not available to my conscious mind. How I know what's in there is by the behavior now I exemplify in the moment of adversity, of being challenged, or of, oh my God, what's going on here? What was I saying in that? I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the 9/10, the subconscious.
Oh, it's still 9/10 subconscious, so I can tell what's in there by my response. If my response, good example, I'm driving down the road. I was in the fast lane of a 2-lane road. It was 50 miles an hour was the speed limit. And I was coming to an intersection, and I saw a car pulling out from a intersection. And I thought they were going to go in their lane, the lane closest to them, and we just move on. Well, he didn't see me, and he pulled into my lane. And my reticular activating system survival mechanism, I just hit my wheel. It was instant. I just moved my wheel a little bit to avoid that car, and he probably moved his wheel a little bit, and I didn't crash into him. my response when I looked in the rearview mirror was concern for that man and his family's welfare. Were they okay? That was my first initial response. That response is due to me doing, I'm mean, I'm violent, I'm a bad dad, I'm arrogant, entitled, mean, controlling, or needy. Every time I owned one of these traits that were in alignment with what happened to me as a child, without blame or judgment, and then created an intent, this happened, and I reframed my total subconscious. Now, the only way for me to know what's in my subconscious now is how I behave with you, how I respond to what I hear you say. My response tells me, oh, it's like somebody said, I'm doing a group with addicts and alcoholics in a treatment center, and somebody says, you're full of shit. But if without any recovery, that'd have been a blowout. That'd have been, you're out of here. Okay. In my recovery, I say, I get it. Yeah, I am so full of it. I imagine what I'm saying to you sounds really ridiculous and stupid, because I know it's like I don't have to defend who I am. I've owned my stupid. I held stupid on myself for so long. And when I owned, oh my God, I'm stupid. And it's like, took a breath, the feeling, oh, it is my intent to hold myself in high regard. It was the criticism of my father and mother that I picked up and started criticizing myself with. There's, Marty, there is, well, I want to say there's nothing stupid about me, but kind of stupid is as stupid does. It's like, it's sometimes I find in a stupid act, I can find a place to connect to somebody, whether it's their stupid act or my stupid act. It's like, I'm okay with being human. I'm okay with having faults. I'm okay with like calling somebody the wrong name. It's like, or forgetting their name. Because I've done this work, and my subconscious pool of vibration is open and willing and wanting to connect to the other person or not. And I can tell which one of those that is, and that gives me my action, my response. And then I just keep checking if that response is dismissive or sarcastic or mean. Oh, I own that right away. Oh, excuse me, that was, I want you to know that that was mean, and that had nothing to do with you. I'm going to be accountable for that. And it is my intent to be a nonviolent, kind man. And I do it today. I don't do it as often as I did 20 years ago. And if it comes up, I know there's still more in this subconscious that hasn't been addressed. And it could be a nuance of the same pain that I felt maybe multiple times. There could be another nuance in that pain that I'm still holding on to that will come out of my expression. And I watch my expression, I watch my response or reaction, and I own it. The good news about this, Marty, is that I get to own my compassion. I get to own my discernment. I get to own my kindness and my ability to create safety for people. I get to own that too. That's me too. That's a direct result of my effort. And what I want for me, I intend to be a loving, caring, nurturing spouse, father, and participant in my community. That's manifest in me. So it's not just the character defects that I'm owning. I own it all.
So would you be willing to comment on the connection between my emotional vibration when I'm unable or unwilling to tell myself the truth about myself versus the emotional vibration when I do tell the truth about myself? Because it seems to me that's the key here to unlocking that getting to the place that you were just describing.
The I'm going to get back to the reticular activating system, brainstem, midbrain. That's hooked into your survival mechanism. So if in my trauma there's something happening in the current reality that reminds me, this is subconscious, my body's reactive. The adrenaline.
So can I just
Yeah.
stop you there for a second? So just because I want to set this up for the beginner. So what I'm hearing you say is, if you say something to me like, there's crumbs on the butter,
Right.
and I have a feeling like I got to defend myself, I got to get my armor on. Now,
Right.
that's not a feeling, but the feeling would be anger, fear.
Right.
That's what you're talking about here, correct?
Yes.
That kind of
Yeah.
disproportionate response to what's actually going on in front of me right now, feeling like something that happened of a actual traumatic experience in my past,
Right.
that my body is still producing.
Right. And as soon as that vibration gets activated, we call it triggers. When this trauma is activated, my body goes into fight, flight, freeze, please, which is a change in chemistry, which is adrenaline. Adrenaline in your system separates you from your emotional body so that you can respond in a life or death situation, separates you from your rational brain, and your body is in a fight, flight, freeze, please response, and it mimics emotion and feeling because your palms get sweaty, your heart starts racing, blood rushes to your face. So that response is your midbrain brainstem's mechanism to get you safe. So it's pumping either blood to your limbs so you can run, or it's it's pumping blood to your upper chest so you can fight, or it's taking everything at freeze part is like you play dead, or you just freeze, you stop, you're blank. That's adrenaline. The adrenaline, see, this is why it's so difficult, because adrenaline mimics feelings, but you're completely out of your
feelings. Because when I'm shot with adrenaline, I'm at a high frequency, vibratorily in my body. I mean, what you didn't say or you implied is that actually blood is moved from certain parts of the body to others.
Right. You're marshaling
to increase that capacity to respond.
Yes. And let me give you an example of a gazelle being attacked by a lion. Okay. So the gazelle's in the meadow and the lion charges and the gazelle just bolts, flees. Flight. Okay. Now, the gazelle's internal mechanism knows enough not to fight the lion.
Right.
That's instinct. Okay. Now, when the gazelle gets caught, that gazelle will fight the lion. They did this exercise with pigeons, and they put them in a life death situation for pigeons. I don't know what that was. And they monitored the fight, flight, adrenaline, body chemistry of the pigeon. What they discovered was that if they went into freeze and they came out of it, there's an instant where they can bolt. They actually went into attack mode. The pigeon would attack the person holding it. So this pigeon, in spite of the instinct to know that this thing can eat you in one bite, actually fought the attacker,
the predator.
So the predator. So this chemistry, what we call that anger, violence, and then we attach it. Oh, that person's emotional, or that person's crazy. Instead of they're in a life or death situation. The life or death situation happened to me as an infant at a frequency, and the crumbs in the butter is a good example because, what are you doing? How come don't you know how to butter your bread? Don't you know how to clean this? It's like the standard that I have puts me in this fight, flight, freeze, and I'm this screaming Mimi, and nothing's really going on. There's just like a concern, and I'm out. I'm out of my emotional body, I'm out of my rational mind, and I lose the other person because the other person then becomes the predator. And it could be a 5'1", brown-eyed, black-haired woman, and I see her as a monster. I see her as an emasculator. I see her as I don't want to get graphic, but the biatch. I see her as all these things. I objectify her. And she becomes something less than or bigger than she really is. And I'm either fighting or running or slamming doors and doing all kinds of things.
So one of the things that my experience of this work is that all of these experiences that you're describing contribute to a shift, because the most important thing is that I become aware of my experience and I'm willing to own it. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters for the purpose of accountability practice is that I'm willing to say, this is my experience.
Yes.
I'm willing to feel. It might be an adrenaline fueled high heart rate, thumping thing, sweat. It may be, it doesn't matter. I think for me, the point is of this work, and the reason we're emphasizing this is that for the most part, like you said about adrenaline, our experience is in our family of origin is that we, as you said earlier, we have to get out of our body because our body can betray us.
Yes.
And so now here I am an adult and something happens. My girlfriend leaves toasted crumbs in the butter. And when I was a kid, I got yelled at for that.
Right.
And I may not even remember that consciously,
Right.
but the experience is as if that were happening. And that if this were happening in an accountability practice meeting, then we would just simply ask the person, would you be willing to just sit with that feeling?
Right.
Because in the example that you gave, when you said the person becomes a monster and you become a responder, an
Right.
angry responder, you slam doors, whatever it is, you're not in your feeling body.
No.
At all. You're just absolutely caught up in the response.
Yeah.
And therefore you're out of your own control. Even though
Right.
you might think you're in control, you're
Right.
actually being controlled by this response. Isn't
Right.
that true?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And so the point of accountability is for me to learn to be with myself the way I am.
Okay.
And that's where it starts.
Here's another important factor about the accountability tree. When I was first accountable, hi, my name is John, I'm an alcoholic. That was my first accountable statement ever, and I can remember. I was in a room of safe people. I was not judged or ridiculed or blamed. They simply said yes. So in that no blame, no judgment space, I was able to feel the impact of what I just heard myself say. I felt the impact of my drinking. It's like, oh my God. That's what we're talking about, feeling. And in the accountability tree process, right under accountability, it says no blame, no judgment. What's your truth? What happened? Where do you find yourself based on your experience of your child? Well, for me, it was mean to the point of cruelty. I was vicious. So I said, oh, I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Wow, there was just feeling washed through me because nobody in the room was going, oh, why'd you do that? How come why didn't you just not do that? Why don't you do something different? Why don't you try to be a nice guy? That's not like you. No judgment. I felt it. And then I had this inspiration come up, and this is where the intent came in the tree. I'm coming back. Now, I didn't at that moment say, I intend to come back. I would now, if I ever got into this, I would say, it is my intent to be kind. But this happened, and it was a shift. It was a frequency, awareness raising, enlightenment moment in my feeling body, no blame, no judgment. And I acted proactive. I was proactive. I'm coming back. And I haven't stopped. Although I switched the AA meeting to an ACA meeting. And I haven't stopped coming back. It's like, this is my home. This is where I feel safe. This is actually, Marty, where I created my new family and where my children, I built a platform for them to come back. It is amazing. It's an amazing process.
So I just like the people watching, particularly if you're watching this for the first time, to notice I had asked the question about the distinction in the body feeling when I'm not telling the truth about myself, which puts me in danger of being in the reacting compulsively, fight, flight, freeze, that adrenaline fueled disguising of my actual fear or whatever the underlying emotion might be that I'm not allowed to feel. And then what I heard John just say when he told the truth, my name's John, I'm an alcoholic. And did you notice the description that he gave? He also had a physical response, a sensorial, emotional response that he could feel and be with. And I just want to notice that, or again, point out that part of the reason that was something you could do was because there was no interference coming at you from any direction.
Right.
Yes. So the only way that you could have gotten out of that is for you to create something to not feel it, but you didn't.
Right.
And you stayed with that. Right. So for me, this really is the core of the accountability practice. We spend a lot of time talking about this today because it is the core. And it is so counterintuitive. It was counterintuitive to me when I was first doing this work. I could see when you would work with other guys, I could see them get this going.
Yep.
I could see them struggle to get in touch with what's actually going on. And you know, there's a lot of coaching that can go on to help people who are frozen or in denial about how we're feeling. Gentle coaching, but coaching nonetheless.
Yeah.
And then I could watch their whole demeanor change when they told the truth, when they finally got to that which they were unable or unwilling to say.
Yeah.
Finally let it out.
Yeah.
And then first their face and then their whole body would relax. Sometimes people would burst into tears, that the face would soften.
Yeah.
And you could, so I could see, sitting across from them, I could see that they were having a different emotional experience.
Yes.
I might not be able to know what it was because I can't feel anyone else's feelings but my own, but I could see. And because of the way that we're built, we have a sympathetic nerve system that allows us to mimic some kind of vibration with the other person. Even though I'm not feeling what you feel, I got something, I got a capacity to generate something similar.
Yes. Based
on facial and recognition and so forth. And what I want to point out is that all of this work is aimed toward getting me just to be present in my body.
Yes.
And when I'm present in my body, here's a metaphysical truth that also might be tough to grasp. When I'm present in this moment, I'm present to all possibility.
Yes.
When I'm present in my body, in my feeling, and I accept the things that are happening to me and as me, that's why I can then say what I want and have it have power and meaning, because I'm in the field of all possibility. What do I want? Oh, I've got to, out of that field of all possibility, I'm going to pick something.
Right.
I want to feel kind. I want to feel happy.
Right.
I want to feel at peace. I want to be authentic.
Right.
All of those things become possible because we've eliminated the opposition to it, and we just allowed ourselves to be present in our feeling body state.
Yes.
And for me, this is the most remarkable, mind-blowing, radical experience, because I was taught to believe in limits and believe in the finite qualities of the world, and to believe in life and death and all these things that imply things coming to an end, things not sustainable. And it's like, well, when I'm present in the moment And I feel myself present right now. I feel the chair I'm sitting in. I feel my legs. I can feel the ambient air. I can feel my love for you. I feel my joy at being in this conversation. Uh, I'm in the presence of all possibility.
Yes.
It's like, okay, what do I want? Well, I want to stay here.
Yeah. I want more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that for me is the quality that allows me, when someone says you're full of shit, or something that in the past might have led me to a fight, flight, freeze, please response, to notice maybe that shows up. And I'd say, oh, okay, what do I want? It's like, oh, okay, I want to be connected with this person. I want to be kind. I want to be observant. I want to be curious.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that becomes your experience.
Exactly. Which
And
otherwise would not have been possible had I not gone through the work of noticing the fight, flight, freeze response in the first place.
correct. Wow. Yeah. Well put. Well put.
So that, my friends, is the accountability practice.
Yeah.
It's that commitment to feeling what I'm feeling. You have the three elements of that. What is it? Feel what I feel, name what I feel. How does it go?
Notice what I feel it, and express it all in the same moment.
Exactly.
And then that becomes, I just want to say, holy instant. That all happens at once for me now. Before it was, I had to like the notice was a difficult thing. And then feeling it was, I didn't know what that meant either. So now it's like this, I'm in this holy moment consistently.
Right.
And I'm not floating off the ground, and I'm not out touching people on the heads and curing them. And I'm not like the guy that everybody's going to vote for and make this whole world right. I'm the guy sitting talking to you.
Right.
And my parties are myself, my children, my grandson, and this information. And it's like people think about enlightenment being, oh, this capacity for this great fifth dimension, sixth dimension light being. Well, but right now, I'm a human being on planet Earth in 3 dimension, and I can do that well. And as I do that well, my capacity for more, another dimension, is not higher, it's just a different awareness, is available to me. And then I develop a practice. And my practice is accountable when I feel this resistance come up, or I see myself, witness myself being sarcastic, ridiculing, or abusive. Take the breath. Okay, that's, oh wow, I'm gonna own this. It is my intent to be kind. It is my intent to be gracious. And the times I have to do this owning, when I first started, it was like 50, 60 times a day. Now it's maybe once every, I'd say 3 months, where something comes up and I go, there's still something in there. There's still something gnawing at me that I haven't reconciled or relieved. So, okay, let's take a moment. What's this feeling? Oh my God, I still have a smidge of arrogance. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, I get that. I'm arrogant, or I'm controlling, or I'm needy. And I intend to be kind. I intend to be giving. And pretty soon I won't have one for as long as I can remember. Consciously.
Right. So the key to this is, from my experience, is the willingness to stick with it, the willingness to practice, the willingness to go to meetings and do the work, to share with my fellow travelers, as we call each other, people who are traveling the same path.
Yeah.
And to continue to notice the resistance. I love it when you said a year or so ago, I revel in my character defects, and we can say the same. I revel in my resistance.
Yes.
I revel in the things I don't see about myself. I revel in my trigger experiences. Because
Mhm.
all of that is a willingness to accept myself the way I am
Yeah,
without blame or judgment.
yeah,
It's like none of us can do ourselves wrong. I can't, I can't not be Marty. I can't be
right.
some other Marty. I can only be who I am,
Yeah,
period. No exceptions, no excuses. It's all I can be. So if that's true, then when I feel myself at war with myself, which was my default position for a long time in my life,
yep,
instead of being in a tizzy about it, I can go, okay, well, I give myself permission to be at war with myself.
yep,
I give myself permission to feel divided. Give myself permission to feel crazy. And I tell you, John, every time I do that, my body reacts
yes,
the same way I reacted the first time I told the truth about myself in an accountability meeting.
yeah. Non-resistance.
Right.
Um, we have a principle, and we all say it all the time: what you resist persists. And then we go into some kind of resistance, thinking it's the other person that made us do it. So it's like, and I've added to that: what we resist persists and prevails. So whatever it is I'm like fighting against, I become
Yep.
or I support in them. And it's just more of the same. I'm adding to the chaos and dilemma and destruction. Or I can choose to like own my stuff and act authentically. And it may be sometimes I tell somebody a real frank, firm no, or it may be I say, well, I really don't want to do that but because you're my friend, let's go ahead and do that anyway. Let's see how it goes. Or I could say, wow, yeah, I like that. Let's do that. And I get to stay in my 3D body and make friends and enjoy my children and my grandson and my job and be here now. Be here now. Just like Ram Dass, be here now.
You know what? I started our conversation by noting that today, as we record this, it's Good Friday,
Yeah.
and I can't help but want to do a full circle close by noticing that Sunday is Easter Sunday, and we could say that experience, that in that story that's told about Jesus' death and crucifixion and resurrection, is a religious symbolic version of what we're talking about here.
Right.
We're talking about letting go of that traumatic mind, essentially dying to it, and allowing this greater possibility to resurrect into consciousness. Because it's
Yes.
always with us. We came into this world with this as potential.
Yeah.
We came into
Yeah.
this world as whole, complete, and perfect.
Right.
We just didn't have the capacity to know ourselves, and we had to go through all of this struggle to be able to recognize and come to that great aha moment, say, well, I don't have to do this anymore.
Right. Yeah.
There's a fundamentally more powerful way for me to be.
Yeah.
And this practice, this accountability practice, is a version of that journey, that hero's journey that Jesus went under in the Christian story. Let go of the old way, give it up. And sometimes, as he does in his story, he goes into the darkness for 3 days. Sometimes we have to sit with doubt and
Yep. Yep.
unknowing,
Yep.
disbelieving,
Confusion.
confusion.
Yep.
But as we hang in there with ourselves, as we love ourselves no matter what, then eventually the light dawns and we go, whoa, if you'd have told me 2 weeks ago that I'd be having this experience, I would have said you're full of shit.
Right. Right.
And here I am having that experience.
Very good.
So as always, I appreciate your time. Before we close, I just want to let everybody know that, as John said earlier, we do have 5 accountability practice meetings scattered throughout the week, and they're all on Zoom, so everyone's invited to check us out. Monday and Thursday nights at 6:30, the Rusty Nail Club meets, and Tuesday afternoon, the Begin Within group at 4 o'clock. We have a new meeting on Wednesdays called Gut Check, which takes these principles and seeks to look at them from the perspective of our physical health and not just our psychological health. That's Wednesdays at 4:30, the Gut Check meeting. And then Digging in the Dirt, Saturday mornings at 8:30 that John facilitates. All these meetings are Pacific time. And if you'd like the Zoom address to any of them, please send John or me a note. Our email addresses will show up at the end of the podcast. And also, if you find this podcast useful, please hit the subscribe button and the little red button beneath the screen and help us build our audience. Help us share this information with others who are looking for it and haven't found it yet. So with that, John, as always, I'll give you the last word.
Oh, wow. That you got me by surprise on that one. I'm ready for that. My last word. Because of my willingness to look at my shadow, right after this podcast, I get to go over to my daughter's house. My older daughter's down from Portland, and we're gonna color Easter eggs or get them ready or go buy them, I don't know what, and have dinner and be together. I'm just grateful. So
Well, enjoy.
I will. I intend to.
Well, as always, John, thank you for your time. And next week, I think we're going to have a special guest next week. So
Oh, yeah.
look forward to that. I think Dan's going to come on again.
Oh, cool.
And share some stuff that he's been thinking about and learning.
Very good.
So
Haven't talked to him for a while. So
okay, good. So happy Easter to you and your family, and we'll see you next week.
You got it. And happy Easter to you too. I love you.
Love you too, John.